I didn't lose her the day she walked out. I lost her the moment I came home early and heard her humming in the kitchen. Not our kitchen anymore. Not really. It was 3:07 p.m. I had just been laid off. 18 years, 2 promotions, for missed anniversaries to make partner, gone with a handshake and a box of my belongings. I didn't call her on the drive home. I wanted to surprise her. I thought she'd pull me in and say, "We'll figure this out. You're still my man." Instead, I stood at the doorway and watched her set the table. 2 plates, 2 wine glasses, and a candle I didn't even know we owned. Then she laughed. That laugh. The one I used to work overtime to hear. A man stepped into view. Hair still wet from her shower. Wearing my t-shirt. They kissed. Right in front of the casserole I used to beg her to make. I didn't drop the box. Didn't scream. Didn't even blink. I just walked backwards out of the house I paid for. And sat in my car until the sky went dark. She never saw me. But I saw everything. That was the moment I realized the person I loved was just waiting for me to stop breathing. I thought she'd be there when I had nothing. I thought we were building a life, not waiting for it to collapse so she could run. But this isn't a sob story. It's not a revenge tale either. It's a resurrection. Because I did lose everything. But somehow, I found myself. If you're a man who's been gutted and ghosted, who gave everything and got emptied in return, stay. This is where men tell the truth, even when it hurts. Type. I'm still here. If you're watching this with tears in your throat and silence in your room. You're not weak. You're just human. And this is my story. I didn't come from money. I came from a father who died young and a mother who worked double shifts just to keep the lights on. We weren't poor in dignity, but yeah. There were nights we boiled rice with ketchup and called it dinner. I was raised to protect. Not to ask for help. Not to cry. Just provide. That's all I ever wanted to do. Be the kind of man who shows up. Rain, sickness, layoffs, still shows up. So when I met her, when I met Laura, it felt like the storm finally passed. She had this calm to her. Big hazel eyes that never darted around the room. When she looked at you, she saw you. Or at least, I thought she did. We met at a 4th of July cookout. I was the quiet guy grilling burgers. She was the one who asked if I needed help slicing onions. We laughed the whole time. She called me Chef Danny for weeks after that. And I fell. Not just for her, but for the idea of us. 2 people who would never let each other fall through the cracks. We moved fast. 6 months in, we were already looking at apartments. I proposed under a string of Christmas lights at her aunt's cabin in Vermont. People said we looked solid. Like those couples you see in commercials, her sister once told us. And I believed it. I believed her. I worked nights. Took on overtime. Skipped my own cousin's wedding to take a second job during her grad school finals. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just wanted her to have everything she dreamed of. She wanted a home with a white kitchen and soft closed drawers. I gave her that. She wanted a dog. We got 2. She wanted to quit teaching and start her Etsy business, so I covered both our bills for almost a year. And even when I was exhausted, when my back ached and my hands were stained with motor oil from weekend shifts, I still came home smiling. Because she'd be there. Because we were building something. She used to leave little notes in my lunchbox. "You got this. Proud of you." I kept those notes in my glove compartment. Still have them, actually. They feel like messages from someone who died, even though she's still alive. I never wanted much from life. Just to be loved for who I am, not what I could offer. Just to walk into my house and know I mattered. To be hugged like I was home, not like a house guest who stayed too long. But love, I learned, has a way of becoming invisible when it's no longer needed. I didn't see it then. I still saw the Laura I met at that cookout, not the one who had already emotionally packed her bags. Maybe that's the part that stings the most. I didn't lose her all at once. I lost her piece by piece. Every "I'm fine." Every "I'm just tired." Every look that went right through me. But back then, I still believed. Still held her hand in church. Still bought her favorite wine on Fridays. Still left work early when she said her migraines were bad. I gave her a man who never walked away, even when he was limping. So when the layoff came, when they shook my hand and handed me a severance envelope with my name misspelled, I wasn't scared. Because I thought I had a teammate at home. A partner. Turns out, I had a passenger. One who was only there while the ride was smooth. And the moment the engine stalled, she opened the door and walked away. But before we get to that, let me tell you about all the signs I ignored. The quiet betrayals that only make sense when you're looking backward. It didn't start with screaming. It started with silence. She stopped sending the lunch notes. Stopped asking how my day was. Stopped noticing when I came home smelling like diesel and defeat. She used to wait at the door. Now I came home to a lock screen and a half-closed laptop. "I'm just catching up on orders," she'd say. But the screen always dimmed when I walked by. The tabs disappeared too fast. The smiles came too slow. And her phone? It went everywhere. Bathroom. Laundry. Even to the mailbox. She had never set a password before. Now it had Face ID, and she never smiled when I was near enough to trigger it. One night, I woke up and found her in the living room, sitting in the dark. Just scrolling. She didn't hear me behind her. Didn't notice the tear running down her cheek. I asked what was wrong. She said she just missed her mom. Her mom passed 5 years ago. But I didn't push. Because men like me don't accuse. We just hold tighter, and hope harder. Then came the excuses. Late grocery runs that took 2 hours. Workshops she swore she signed up for, but couldn't remember the address. Friends I'd never met, whose names she mumbled like they were in a different language. And the bed. It used to be where we whispered dreams. Now it was just a cold field with a pillow wall between us. She said she was tired. Said she had cramps. Said she didn't feel close. But I was tired too. And lonely. And aching. And I still showed up. The last straw should have been the gas receipts. Twice a week she was filling up, but her car barely left the driveway. I asked once. She said she was letting her friend, Nicole, borrow it. Nicole, who I hadn't seen since our wedding. Nicole, who somehow needed gas money every Tuesday and Thursday. But I wanted so badly to believe her. To believe us. Even my friend Marcus pulled me aside one Sunday. He looked me in the eye and said, "Dan, you sure she's still in this with you?" And I told him, "Yeah. She's just overwhelmed." What I meant was, please don't make me say it out loud. Because saying it would make it real. And I wasn't ready for that. Men like me aren't taught to expect betrayal. We're taught to endure it. We believe that if we just work harder, love deeper, care more, the cracks will fix themselves. But love doesn't work like that. You can't patch a sinking ship with silence. And you can't hold together a woman who's already halfway out the door. I should have asked more questions. Should have trusted the knots in my stomach. But I didn't. I told myself I was just tired. Told myself she was tired. Told myself every couple goes through this. What I never told myself was the truth. That she was already gone. I just hadn't caught up yet. And then came the day I found out. Not in a dramatic movie scene. Not with yelling or slammed doors. Just one ordinary moment, where everything I thought I knew collapsed. It was a Thursday, clear sky. Coffee still warm in my thermos. I had just lost my job. 18 years of loyalty, gone in a 10-minute meeting where they couldn't even pronounce my last name right. They called it restructuring. I called it a gut punch with a smile. They handed me a white envelope and a cardboard box. Said I could take the afternoon to process. What they didn't know was, the layoff wasn't what broke me. It was what I came home to. Laura didn't know I was on my way. I didn't call. Didn't text. I just wanted to see her face when I walked in. I imagined her arms around me. Her voice saying, "It's okay, baby. We'll figure it out." Instead, I got quiet music coming from the living room. Sod. She only played sod when she was in a mood. And 2 plates on the table. 2 wine glasses. And a candle. I froze. My feet still on the welcome mat we picked out at HomeGoods. The one that says, "This is us." She walked into view. Wearing the dress I gave her last Christmas. The one she said she didn't like? The one she never wore for me. She was laughing. Then he walked in. I didn't know him. Tall, lean, confident. Like he had been here before. Like this wasn't the first time he'd shared dinner with my wife. He kissed her. Right on the cheek. Like it was his home too. And she didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. She just leaned in and smiled. I stepped back, still holding my box. A photo of us at Niagara Falls on top. It tilted and spilled across the porch. I didn't even try to pick it up. I just stood there. Watching them eat. Hearing them laugh. Sinking into something I don't even have a name for. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Something colder. Something heavier. I sat in my car for 3 hours. Didn't drive. Didn't cry. Just sat there with my hands on the steering wheel like I was waiting for instructions from a god who suddenly felt far away. She never saw me. But I saw everything. Later that night, I came in like a ghost. She was already in bed, pretending to scroll Instagram. I could still smell his cologne in the hallway. She looked up and said, "Hey. You're home early." That's all. No. "How was your day?" No. "What's wrong?" Not even fake concern. Just a line tossed over her shoulder like we were roommates. Like I hadn't just watched her heart belong to someone else. I said, "I got laid off." She blinked. Then said, "Wow. That sucks." And went back to scrolling. Didn't reach for me. Didn't say, "We'll figure it out." Didn't ask if I was okay. And that's when I knew. She had already replaced me. Not just with a man, but with a life. A life where I didn't exist anymore. The next morning, she made eggs. I watched her move around the kitchen, humming. Like nothing had happened. Like our marriage hadn't died the day before in our own dining room. I wanted to scream. Throw the plates. Punch the wall. But all I could do was sit there. Like a man at his own funeral, watching everyone eat the food meant to honor him. She asked if I was going to look for work today. Didn't say, "Take a day to rest." Didn't say, "I believe in you." She just wanted the bills paid. Even if the marriage was bankrupt. That night, I asked her directly, "Is there someone else?" She took a long sip of wine. Then said, "Does it matter?" I said, "Yes." And she just shrugged. That shrug hurt more than if she had yelled. More than if she confessed it all. Because that shrug told me everything. She had already decided. She wasn't in love. She wasn't sorry. She was simply done. Like I was a subscription she forgot to cancel, and now the free trial I slept on the couch that night. She didn't come check on me. Didn't ask if I was okay. The next day, her phone buzzed. I looked at it. One word popped up. "Miss you." No name. Just that. And a heart emoji. She saw me see it. Didn't snatch it away. Didn't defend it. She just said, "Please don't make this harder than it already is." That was her way of saying, "Don't bleed too loud. I'm already moving on." No apology. No regret. Just management. Damage control. The worst part? She never cried. Not once. Not when I packed a bag. Not when I stopped wearing my ring. Not when I sat across from her at the kitchen table and said, I don't even know who you are anymore. She just looked at me and said, maybe you never did. And that's how it ended. Not with a bang, but with a woman in my house who had already erased me from her future. And a man, sitting in the wreckage, still trying to believe in love. But belief doesn't survive in betrayal. It suffocates under silence. And I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't punch walls or break dishes. I just went quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like death. And in that silence, I started falling apart. Not publicly. Not loudly. Just piece by piece, when no one was looking. Let me tell you how a man breaks when nobody sees. At first, I thought I was holding it together. I woke up. Brushed my teeth. Answered texts like nothing had changed. But everything had. And little by little, it started to show. I stopped shaving. Stopped replying to group chats. Stopped opening the blinds in the living room. It's strange how a man can be alive and still feel like he doesn't exist anymore. I'd sit in the same chair for hours, staring at a muted TV screen. Sometimes I'd replay our wedding video just to punish myself. Her smiling in that white dress. Me, wiping sweat off my palms before I said, I do. I started wondering if she meant it. If she ever meant it. Or if I was just a placeholder until she found someone shinier. Friends said, come out, man. Let's get a drink. But I didn't want drinks. I wanted answers. And no one could pour those. Some days I went to the park and just sat in my car. Watched families. Watched old couples. Watched people not break. She stopped asking where I went. Stopped caring when I came back. The house felt like a tomb. Her silence wasn't cold, it was clinical. I left roses on the bed once. She moved them to the nightstand and said, you don't have to do that. I wrote her a letter. Poured out everything. How I still loved her. How I wanted to fix it. She never replied. Just circled a few bills on the counter and left the note under them. I was fighting to save something she had already buried. You want to know what real humiliation is? It's begging someone to love you, and watching them yawn. I stopped looking for jobs. Not because I couldn't work, but because I didn't know why anymore. Who was I working for? The woman who came home smiling after late night, craft fairs? The one who started wearing perfume again but never for me? I tried to be enough. Even when she made me feel like I was too much, and not enough at the same time. And then one night, I heard her laughing on the phone. That same laugh. That private laugh she used to save for just us. Now it belonged to someone else. I sat outside the bedroom door, listening like a stranger in my own life. When she hung up, I asked her, do you even want to be here? She said nothing. And that silence said everything. That's when I stopped trying. Stopped shaving. Stopped asking questions. Stopped believing there was anything worth salvaging. I slept on the couch every night for 3 weeks. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, and didn't care. She started making only 1 cup of coffee. Stopped putting my laundry in with hers. Started calling me Dan instead of babe. That's when I realized. She wasn't being cruel. She was being clear. And I was breaking. But in the quietest way possible. No punches. No screaming matches. No slamming doors. Just quiet. Just emptiness. I went 3 days without speaking once. Not a single word. Not even to myself. I stared at the mirror and didn't recognize the man looking back. Eyes red. Beard patchy. Shoulders slouched like the world was riding them. And maybe it was. One morning, I opened the fridge and saw posted on the milk. Buy more if you're going out. No. Please. No. Hey babe. Just instructions, like I was a roommate paying rent late. And I stood there, milk in hand, and thought to myself, I am living with a woman who has already emotionally divorced me. I just hadn't gotten the memo yet. That's when the tears finally came. Not loud, Not dramatic. Just hot, slow, and wordless. I sat on the floor in the hallway and cried like I was emptying out my lungs. And when it was over, I didn't feel better. I just felt done. Not angry. Not bitter. Just done trying to be loved by someone who no longer saw me. And that was the beginning of the end. But also, somehow, the beginning of me. Because what came next wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was the moment I stopped begging and started rebuilding. But first, there was one more thing she did. One final blow I didn't see coming. And it changed everything. It was a Tuesday. I remember because that was the day I used to pick up her favorite pastries after work. Even after losing my job, I still bought them. It made me feel like I still mattered. But this time, I came home and saw something on the kitchen counter that didn't belong to either of us. A key fob. Brand new. With a logo I couldn't afford. I asked her, "Whose car is this?" She didn't even look up from her phone. Just said, "Oh, that's for me." Then added, "He surprised me." I didn't need to ask who he was. She'd already made that clear in every silence between us. But I asked anyway. "With what money, Laura?" She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't do this, Dan. You know I've needed a new car for months." I just stood there. In the same kitchen where I once washed her feet after a long day. Where we danced barefoot to Otis Redding with flour on our noses. And now, she was accepting gifts from another man. While I was still checking for discount eggs. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't grieving our marriage. She was celebrating its ending. Laughing with him. Driving his car. Wearing the new perfume I hadn't smelled before. Like I had died quietly, and she had already remarried her freedom. But it wasn't the car that broke me. It was what I heard her say 2 nights later on the phone, when she thought I was asleep on the couch. I heard her giggle, and then say, "I never really wanted this life. Not our life. Not our vows. Not the man who covered her rent in grad school and built her business website from scratch. Just this life. The one I broke my back to build for her." She said it like she was shedding an old coat. Like I was a chapter she never wanted to write. And I realized. She didn't fall out of love with me. She fell out of love with the man who no longer made her feel rich, adored in public. When the job left, so did the mask. And so did she. And that's when it finally broke. Not me. Not this time. That was the day the begging died. The hoping ended. And the man I used to be, quietly walked away. Not with rage. Not with revenge. But with a stillness that says, "You don't have access to hurt me anymore." That was the first boundary I ever drew with her. And I didn't need to shout it. I didn't write it in a letter. I didn't post it on Facebook. I just lived it. She didn't notice at first. She kept asking me if I'd taken the trash out. Kept leaving me her receipts to organize. Kept pretending we were still teammates. But now I didn't respond. I wasn't being petty. I was finally free. I started walking again. Not far, just to the end of the block and back. But those steps felt like rebellion. I downloaded a job app again. Not because she needed me to, but because I wanted to remember what it felt like to believe in my own name again. I deleted our playlist. All 217 songs. Each one that once carried a memory, now silenced. I didn't make an announcement. Didn't change my relationship status. I just began. Little things at first. Fresh bedsheets. My own groceries. I bought the peanut butter I liked, not the one she said was too crunchy. And every quiet move I made toward myself made her less powerful. She asked me once, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah. I'm just done pretending." She nodded like she understood. But I saw it in her eyes, she didn't expect me to leave first. Because when you're the one being left, people think you'll cling. Beg. Crawl. But I had already done my crawling. Now, I walked. I went to therapy. Walked into a cold office and sat across from a stranger who asked me, "What would you say to the version of you that stayed too long?" I didn't answer at first. But later that night, I whispered it into my pillow. "You did the best you could. You just didn't know she had already left." Forgiving myself was the hardest part. Because the shame doesn't come from being betrayed. It comes from betraying your own instincts. But I forgave him, the man I used to be. The one who believed love could fix anything. The one who thought loyalty was enough. And slowly, I started to feel human again. I cleaned out the garage. Sold her craft table. Donated the wedding china we never used. I stopped waiting for the door to open with an apology. It never did. It never will. I got a job at a smaller firm. Less pay. Less pressure. But every paycheck felt like mine. No more trying to impress a woman who once said, "You don't think big enough." I moved into a one-bedroom condo across town. No memories. Just sunlight. And silence that finally felt safe. She reached out once, months later. Asked how I was. Said she'd been thinking of me. I told her I was good. Not great. Not dramatic. Just good. She asked if I ever missed us. And I told her the truth. No. I miss the man I was when I believed you loved me. But I don't miss being blind. She left me on read. That was her final gift. And I accepted it with peace. My comeback wasn't flashy. I didn't post gym selfies. Didn't get a new girl to prove I could. I just became me. Not the version shaped by what she wanted. But the man I forgot I was before I made my life all about us. I started painting again. Nothing fancy, just strokes of color on a canvas. But it was mine. I started writing small things. Journals. Thoughts. Letters I never sent. And I started waking up without dread. No more walking on eggshells. No more deciphering silence. No more trying to hold on to someone who had already let go. She thought she left me broken. But what she left was a man who finally met himself. And in that meeting came the blood-earned lessons. Not the kind you read in a book. The kind you learn with your ribs. With your throat. With your silence. 1. Trust is sacred. It's not a gift, it's a gamble. And once it's broken, it doesn't come back with flowers or apologies. Next time, I'll listen more to what people do than what they say. Because the truth always leaks through behavior. 2. Never ignore your gut. Mine screamed for months. But I told it to quiet down because I didn't want to believe the truth. That's how betrayal works. It doesn't start with lies. It starts with you lying to yourself. 3. Loyalty isn't weakness. But misplacing it will destroy you. I gave the best parts of me to someone who only loved the version of me that never needed help. And when I didn't need help, when I finally collapsed, she stepped over me without blinking. 4. Stop trying to fix people who are committed to staying broken. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lost. She was clear, just not honest. Some people love you for what you do, not for who you are. And when you stop doing, they stop loving. 5. Love shouldn't require silence. I swallowed every concern. Softened every boundary. Turned down the volume on my own needs just to keep the peace. And in the end, the silence cost me more than the fight ever would have. 6. You don't need closure to heal. I thought I needed her to explain, to apologize, to see me. But healing came the moment I stopped waiting for her to give me peace, and gave it to myself. 7. Peace isn't the absence of pain. It's the presence of clarity. Of knowing who you are, and what you'll never accept again. I don't hate her. I don't love her either. She's just a lesson now. A scar that doesn't sting, but reminds me. And I carry that reminder with grace, not bitterness. Because I made it. Through the storm. Through the silence. through the self-doubt. I'm not the man she left. I'm the man I was always meant to become, but couldn't, while trying to be hers. If you're listening to this and your chest feels heavy, if you're in the place I was, sleeping on couches, replaying conversations, wondering if you're crazy, don't scroll past this next part. Because this last thing I'm about to say is for you. If you're sitting there in silence, heart racing, fists clenched, I see you. If the room feels too quiet, and your chest feels too loud, I know that feeling. If you've checked your phone just to see nothing from her again, yeah. I've been there. Let me say what nobody probably said to me when I needed it most: you are not weak for loving her. You are not soft for believing. You are not foolish for wanting it to work. You were real. And real men get hurt too. Because we love deeply. We build futures in our minds. We sacrifice without keeping score. So if you're crying right now, don't wipe your face out of shame. Wipe it like a man who's finally choosing to feel, instead of pretending not to break. And listen to me closely. Your value didn't walk out when she did. Your worth wasn't tied to her staying. Your manhood didn't shatter when she replaced you. You survived. And if you're still here, watching, breathing, clenching your jaw to hold it in, you're already healing. It's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to stay not okay. So start small. Start where I did. With silence. With sunlight. With a single step back toward yourself. And if this story felt like yours, type, "I survived," in the comments. Say it for you. Say it for the next man reading. Say it so we don't feel so damn alone. This is not the end of your story. It's the start of the chapter she'll never get to read. And it's going to be your best one yet. You made it, brother. Now live like you did.